Tonight, no end in sight to the nation's bushfire emergency.
There's embers falling from the sky. It's really scary.
It's chaos. I've never seen anything like it.
My neighbour has decided to stay, so I hope he's all right.
Flash over, 1648, flash over.
Okay, he's coming this way.
Hey, you just don't want to go through something like this. It was terrifying.
Welcome to this special edition of 7:30. I'm Joe O'Brien. For months, Australia has endured the most prolonged and destructive bushfire emergency in memory. From the rainforests of Queensland and northern New South Wales to the Blue Mountains, from the Adelaide Hills to Gippsland in Victoria, from Tasmania to Western Australia. At least 17 lives and more than 1,000 homes have been lost, while an area as big as Belgium has been reduced to ash. The latest fire front stretches from the south coast of New South Wales all the way to eastern Victoria. Those New Year's Eve images of a pitch black sky thick with smoke, people huddled on the beach, some escaping across the water, are going to stick in the Australian psyche for many years to come. We begin our coverage tonight in the devastated New South Wales town of Cobargo, where 2 residents died yesterday defending their home. Phil Williams has spent the day there.
After the firestorm, today was a day of reckoning. It's when people could get back to their homes, and for some, it was devastating news. Entire communities have been absolutely traumatised, and there could be worse to come as the weather looks terrible this weekend.
Yeah, hang on, they'll go off if I go around. Get off the road, kids. Oh, sorry.
We're going up to see if my house is still standing and see if my horses are still alive. Stomach's turning. Well, we're going to have to walk up. That's where the horses got out. Thank God for that.
But anyway, it's gone now. I don't know what we're supposed to do next.
No.
Just don't know.
No. You want to stay here?
Yep, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, no, I'll rebuild again. Actually, we shouldn't really be here because another tree might fall on us if it's burning. Hey.
Yep.
Should go up.
I think so.
I mean, my heart's totally broken. But you just got to go on. Simple as that, eh? I suppose it's not that simple, but and it won't be that simple. But we'll do it, and everybody else will. And we've got a great community. We'll all help each other.
What was in this shed here?
Probably $30,000 worth of hay.
I mean, you've got hungry cows right now.
Yeah, they're starving actually now. Yeah. Well, we've got a dozen bales of silage left. That's all we've got. Feed in the silos here, but no power to get it out.
How do you pick yourself up today?
You've got to. You've just got to.
Well, up until 24 hours ago, this was the beautiful town of Cobargo on the New South Wales south coast. It had gorgeous shops here, very historic town, and the commercial heart of this town had literally been ripped out. And the most devastating of all, 2 people in the district were killed. All this can be rebuilt.
You know, it can be replaced, but we can't replace those amazing 2 men that we lost that were defending their property. They are amazing. No one will understand till they've been in it, that wall of fire that came over here. And we stayed and defended our home till that we heard that wall of fire, and people say it's like a steam train. It is. It is roaring, and we just all evacuated to the showground.
We were able to get resources here fairly quickly and start to save some of the other infrastructure from the post office up. But these shops, I'm afraid, were totally involved, engulfed, and within half an hour, as you see it now, it was all very quick.
And this is the heart of the town, isn't it?
This is the heart of the town, yes. So we've lost some very long-established businesses. Their livelihoods are gone, and it's a devastating blow to a little country village, but we will survive.
It's shattering to see the main street, you know, like this is such a great little town, and we've loved living here.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it's pretty crap. Yeah, I feel for everyone.
Buttered bread there.
Yeah, I feel for everyone in the town. Pretty shit.
This is Cobargo Showground, and it's become a refuge in effect for the fire refugees. Almost everyone here has lost their home, and if they don't know yet, they fear they've lost it, and of course all their possessions, and for some people also their animals.
You're a star, Mac.
Yeah, they were nice little goats. So yeah, we had 2 mums and their babies, and a buck. They were sort of family pets, I guess. But yeah, we'd start again. Hopefully the insurance is up to date. That's always the thought at the moment. Came up pretty quick on this side. A lot of fuel in there. That's the house. It wasn't the most beautiful house in the world, but we were going to do something with it. Yeah, so this is the project. And yeah, I guess it's a bigger project now. Oh, here's the goats. Come here, goats. Come here. Come on. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult time, but I think if anywhere can do it and anywhere can pull through, then from what I've seen, Cobargo can do it.
That story was filmed by Greg Nelson. Fires have also ravaged Victoria's east. In Bairnsdale, Lucy Carter met locals returning to find their homes reduced to ash. So Lucy, community still cut off there?
Yes, Joe, a number of communities, especially along the coastline of Gippsland, remain completely cut off, with so many roads still closed in this region. We've just been allowed into this small town where about half of the homes have been burnt out, and the local primary school has completely gone. As I speak to you now, there are shell-shocked locals just walking along the street, talking with army personnel and just really assessing the damage. People here seem, I guess, quite shocked that this has happened. A lot of the people I spoke to said they never thought the fire would come to this town, and let alone be as bad as it has been. What's really concerning them, though, is that it's not over yet. Fire conditions and weather conditions on Saturday are expected to again worsen, and there are real fears that the fire could turn back on itself and come back to Clifton Creek and take what's left. This pile of charred, twisted metal and ash is all that remains of Kat Hammond's family home. It was wiped out by a fire she never believed would take their house.
I thought, my house is made of bricks and we don't have any big trees around it, and we'd been in drought for 3 years. I thought, there's virtually no fuel in the paddocks, we have no grass.
The fire had been burning in nearby East Gippsland for weeks, but as weather conditions worsened, it crept closer.
We knew it was burning weeks before. There'd been lots of discussion about what we would do. And when I say discussion, it's largely argument between Adrian and myself, because he wanted to stay and defend and I wanted to take the animals and go. But on Friday afternoon, some really knowledgeable horse people and great people rang me and said, get your horses out.
They evacuated with their pets on Sunday evening.
We prepared notes to put on the fence so that we didn't want anybody risking their lives to save our house. So we just let the fireys know, we just put no animals, no pets, told them where there was water down in the bottom paddock.
So what do you now know happened after you evacuated?
It initially came up, they told me, from the bottom right-hand corner of our property, which is on 50 acres. It came roaring up the hill.
When did you find out you'd lost your home?
I got a phone call from Troy, our next-door neighbour. He said, Kat, I don't know how to tell you this, and it's a horrible call. He said, but I think both yours and my houses have burnt down. My house is flattened. Adrian's shed, every tool in his shed doesn't exist anymore, and you get there and everything is black except for a blue, untouched wading pool with a highly flammable nylon canopy over it, and one of the go-karts, a little blue Mario Brothers looking go-kart, sits beside the pool in this landscape of black.
Yesterday was Kat and Adrian's son's wedding. They and the wedding flowers couldn't get there as the fire flared back up again.
My oldest son, it's his Australian wedding. They got married in London a couple of months ago, and this wedding was for all of his Australian family and friends to go to. In Mallacoota, they fully understand that we couldn't go, but yeah, so...
How does it feel missing that though?
Yeah, that was pretty awful.
The Hammonds say they will stay in East Gippsland and rebuild on their property. But for now, all they have are their animals and a few personal effects.
I've got a little suitcase with some semi-formal stuff in it. I've got a bigger case that I grabbed because my sister insisted that I wasn't prepared enough, and I threw some clothes in. So I, almost like a bratty child, I grabbed 5 shirts off my wardrobe and wrapped them up and shoved them in, and a pair of jeans, and I thought I'd better get Adrian something too. And so I threw a few of his things in, one pair of jeans and 2 shirts, socks and jocks. And that's it. In that. Oh, and I put in some letters that my son had written me, and... second.
Kat knows this fire emergency is far from over and is warning other Australians to stay alert.
You get complacent, you go, oh yeah, the fire's in the background, we better watch that. It might flare up, but you don't really think it's going to flare up.
Victorians are banding together to support the many families who have lost everything or been forced from their homes. Manpreet Singh and a couple of mates from Melbourne heard about the emergency and drove straight to the Bairnsdale Evacuation Centre, where they've been cooking and serving free meals.
They are beautiful people and they are appreciating our efforts, and they're giving so much love.
Local chef Susan Peterson lost 2 homes as fire swept through Sarsfield 2 days ago.
Mum and Dad have a house in the front of my property, and then my house is behind it, so they're about 100 metres apart. They moved up here when Dad got crook, so it's more like a dependent relative sort of setup. They had their own house and their own shed and their own space.
What's left now?
Not a great deal.
She reluctantly evacuated with her family on Monday.
Early Tuesday morning, I was sitting having a coffee with Ryan. He got a phone call and said someone, and you see it on his face, and I'm like, what? And somebody had driven to our place and started taking photos, and it was gone. Everything was gone, melted, gone, like a bomb had gone off.
Unlike many in this region, Susan was fully insured, but some treasured items will never be replaced.
I had people, my girlfriends ringing me, crying because they can't come and have a cup of tea at my house. It had so many memories, so many events over all these years.
Will you rebuild?
Yeah, I like it there. I shouldn't, but I do. It's hard.
That story was filmed by Michael Null. When the fire front hit Mallacoota in Victoria's East Gippsland, most people were trapped because the roads were cut. Matt Manning was one of a group who escaped on water, packing his boat with supplies to last a couple of days. From the early hours of yesterday until the afternoon, he waited on the lake, watching the firestorm move closer to town. Matt Manning, welcome. Describe for us what it was like as the fire approached yesterday morning.
I'd actually prepared my boat earlier that morning to go out onto the lake if I needed to, with water and supplies, and then we just sat around hour by hour and watched it, and it just was just like this glow in the sky that just got closer and closer and wider, and we sort of sat in the camp park and waited until about 1:30 in the morning, and then then we went down to the boat and sat in the boat for another sort of couple of hours and watched the glow get bigger and closer to town. And then when sort of ash and embers started to blow our way and stuff, we sort of thought, well, we better get out of here, and we headed out into the lake.
Was there any sunlight that came through at sunrise, or was it just basically pitch black?
It was an amazing event, to be honest. We got out onto the lake at about 3:30 in the morning and anchored not too far off town so that we could sort of see the town, and we watched, tried to get a little bit of sleep, and then at first light, just after about 5:30, it actually looked pretty clear, and there was a lot of smoke haze, but then that's when the fire hit the town, and all of a sudden the wind picked up, and there were embers coming towards my boat again, and I was probably 700 or 800 metres off the shore from the town, and I thought, I might move out a bit here. This sky went this amazing orange colour, almost like out of a movie scene, and then that lasted about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then it just went pitch black. It went pitch black like it was absolute midnight with no moon in the sky. There was probably 30 boats pulled up to this sandbar in the middle, and you couldn't see the boat next to you for about the next 4 hours.
And Matt, what's it like there now? Thousands of people still stuck there, and is that ash behind you?
Yeah, look, I'm standing. I'm camping about probably about 30 metres from where I'm standing, and there's thick bush here, which is no longer thick bush. It's just thick trees. Just panning a little bit for you there. That is ash on the ground. There was. It's right through here. Apparently, it went up like a ball of flames, and to get ash on the ground like this, I've sort of understand it's got to be about 1,000 degrees to get white ash like that. The ground's still hot. I'm standing on the ground, and it's still hot under my feet. So it's the fire was pretty ferocious. There's been a lot of houses lost. I think last sort of discussions there was around about sort of 70. Maybe 80 houses lost in the town, which is tragic.
Okay, Matt Manning, thanks for talking to us from Mallacoota, and hope you're able to get back to Melbourne soon.
Yeah, we'll be right, and thanks for your time.
Also trapped in Mallacoota was Charles Livingston and his family. He's thankful they survived, but concerned for his son's health now with the smoke being so thick for so long. He's keen to get him evacuated as soon as possible. I spoke to Charles Livingston earlier. Charles Livingston, welcome. What was it like being in the middle of that apocalyptic scene at Mallacoota yesterday?
Well, I have to say it was pretty frightening. I think, during the event itself, you just had to sort of bear it, I guess. But it was, in retrospect, it's starting to hit us how much damage has been done and how dangerous the situation was. So, it's hard to describe. You look out the windows of the relief centre where we were, and the sky was orange. But before that, at dawn, the sky was black, so there was no sunrise as such. It was, the sky was just blackened by the smoke. And then as the firestorm roared through the town, the sky, it looked like the sky was on fire. So, people in the assembly area where we were calm and, looked after each other, but it was a very, very difficult experience and one I wouldn't like to repeat, to be honest.
Did it get to the stage through those hours of yesterday where you thought you were actually going to get into the water to survive?
Yeah, we were thinking about that at various times, and the CFA advised us, at reasonable intervals that if that occurred, then they would suggest we do that, and we should just, go straight out and straight down. Happily, it didn't come to that. I mean, the CFA told us they would defend the town and the area we were in, and they did a fantastic job. I have no, I can't think of words adequate to describe how wonderful those guys are.
Okay, Charles Livingston, thanks for talking to us.
You're very welcome.
And yesterday, firefighter Jasper Croft and his crew were called to help a volunteer brigade protecting homes south of Nowra on the New South Wales south coast. But the convoy of fire trucks was confronted by a wall of flame, forcing the crew to go back. Their video from inside the inferno has gone viral. I spoke to Jasper Croft earlier.
Watch out, Paul. Jasper, put the blanket up.
Jasper Croft, what was it like being inside that cabin as those flames roared up beside you?
Oh, it was very intense. It was like being in an oven. You can see in that video that my crew from behind me was passing through the fire blanket to stop that heat, the radiant heat coming through the cabin. At this stage, my driver did an absolutely unreal job to get us out of there. There were so many obstacles, we couldn't see a thing. We had four trucks in front of us, or behind us. We had to turn around and we got held up with each truck. 3 of the 4 trucks failed on that road, and we had to avoid every one of them. So we were actually first truck in and first truck out.
And so did you think at any stage that you weren't going to make it?
Oh, well, at that stage, you're not thinking about that sort of thing. We just wanted to do everything we can to get out. Once we got to the tarmac, we just kept proceeding to get away from that fire front. Once we got a bit further, our truck was immobilised as well. But then we reassessed, and once we couldn't do anything, we got on an RFS crew that was there, and we knew that there was 3 other trucks that were on that road. We had to get back to them and try and assist them as well. We had no idea. We had no comms with them. We had no idea if they were still alive.
Jeez. And so did anything on your truck melt?
Yeah, so we've been back to this morning and had a look at the trucks. The whole left-hand side of it's melted, the handles and the front mirrors and all that sort of stuff has melted off. We were lucky to be able to keep on driving it as long as we did. We had an airline that melted through, but we got far enough away from that fire front to get us to a safe area. Then we had to abandon the truck, and we jumped in with some media car and a bulk water tanker to get out of there.
Yeah. And have you ever seen anything like this before?
Oh, absolutely not. I've been in the service for 8 years, and I've never come across anything like that before. This fire season is completely different to anything we've seen.
It's really dangerous work, as we can see in that video. Why do you do it?
So, yeah, it is dangerous, but we do it to save lives and protect property. So, we were tasked to do a job, and because there was lives at risk, and we were doing that job. There was 16 other guys on that job, and they were all doing the same thing.
Okay, Jasper Croft, thanks for talking to us from Sydney.
No worries, thanks for the time.
Fire chiefs have described this season's bushfires as unprecedented. The big question remains, why have these fires been so severe, and why is Australia's bushfire season getting longer and more intense? Last year, 730 spoke with a series of experts who laid it out for us.
The only way out of Cabarga is on fire. Go! Go!
Would you call this one of, if not the worst, bushfire season on record for New South Wales?
Absolutely. Yes.
Bushfires have always been one of the most hazardous forms of natural disaster. But with no end in sight to what's already been declared the worst fire season in the nation's history, what's making these bushfires so severe?
What seems to have happened is that those bushfire seasons have extended. So they're starting earlier, finishing later. And so the traditional idea of a bushfire season probably seems to have gone out the window in Australia as it has in other places like California.
And it's not just a one-off event. An analysis of fire warning data has also revealed that between 1973 and 2010, bushfire conditions have worsened in these locations across Australia.
A key driver is temperature, but at the same time we're seeing a really significant drought here, which also dries out that fuel, and it also dries out the wind, and so we're getting very dry wind coming across dry fuel, and that's a prime situation for fires.
The topic that has generated the most controversy is discussion around the link between climate change and bushfire intensity. According to the CSIRO, Australia's climate has warmed by just over 1 degree since 1910.
1 degree mightn't sound much, but 1 degree makes a huge difference when you're thinking about the Earth system.
A joint report by the Bureau of Meteorology and CSIRO found that climate change is contributing to a longer fire season.
We're coming into what I think is the most dangerous fire season, dangerous build-up to a fire season I've seen since 1994.
Last year, former New South Wales Fire Chief Greg Mullins issued a stark warning on 7:30.
Climate change is real. It's making it a more dangerous planet for everybody, but particularly in Australia, it's going to be harder and harder to fight these fires, and we need a national response to this.
So what we're seeing is an increased number of fires, increased severity of those fires, increased area burnt, as well as increased fire season. And they're all of the sorts of things we anticipate under climate change. And unfortunately, the projections are for those to get worse.
So what impact will this horror bushfire season have on the political agenda for the year ahead? Here's Chief Political Correspondent Laura Tingle.
Disasters change a country. They leave individuals and communities mourning the loss of loved ones, homes and livelihoods, but they also leave them mourning their sense of certainty. That inevitably means they look for leadership. Thinking about how this ongoing catastrophe will change our politics, therefore, means more than just what impact it might have on climate change policy. It goes to what people expect of their leaders and governments at such times. They want leaders to articulate what we are seeing, to show they understand the enormity of it and are responding. Instead, the Prime Minister's ill-timed holiday in Hawaii and his insistence that policy settings are all just fine have put him on the political back foot.
Can we trust your gut instincts as leader if your gut told you it was safe to go to Hawaii?
Look, I think Australians are very fair-minded people. They know that whether you're a Prime Minister or anyone else, you juggle the demands of family. Now, I have a young family, as Australians know, and the demands of your role and your work, and that's as true for a Prime Minister as it is for anyone else, and you try and make the best decisions.
Pollsters say last year's election result was ultimately a rejection of Bill Shorten by voters. He's gone now. The current disasters, they say, mean voters are now resetting their expectations of Scott Morrison on what he does, not as a choice. In the past, he put himself in front of the disaster management story, such as last year's Queensland floods. But with the more recent bushfires, he's been emphasising disasters are a matter for the states and refusing to shift position at all on climate policy. In other words, seeming to step back just when people want a PM to step forward. For a Prime Minister seen since the election as all-powerful, sources say he confronts the same reality as Malcolm Turnbull. Even if he wanted to change climate policy, the Conservatives in his party would not let him.
Australia is taking action on climate change. What we won't do is engage in reckless and job-destroying and economy-crunching targets, which is seeking to be postured to us at the moment, taking advantage of natural disasters.
The Prime Minister might be right that there is no direct link between climate change and an individual fire event. But for many people, these catastrophic bushfires have put climate change in the present tense.
This is not business as usual, this fire season. They expect actually a bit of fair dinkum truth about what's going on because they can see it, they can smell it, and we're seeing the impact of complacency.
While the climate change war may continue to rage, these fires have destroyed crucial infrastructure, from roads to telecommunications, power and water, and will cripple many local economies like the New South Wales South Coast. That means we will be talking about their impact and what the government is doing about them for months. There will be much less room for political games and ideology, and that in itself will change our politics.
And for a preview of fire conditions over the days ahead, I spoke earlier to the Bureau of Meteorology's Dean Scarbossa. Dean Scarbossa, welcome. So what's the outlook over the next couple of days?
Well, we'll see that heat rebuilding once again over interior Western Australia tomorrow, leading to quite high temperatures in the high 30s all the way into the mid 40s, and that with increasing winds ahead of a vigorous cold front approaching from the west. We'll see fire dangers reaching into the severe to extreme, potentially even the catastrophic for the Eucla and Goldfields districts.
And just how bad is Saturday going to be? We keep on hearing from authorities that it could be as bad as or worse than yesterday in parts of southeastern Australia.
Yeah, very similar conditions are expected as we saw over the last couple of days across Gippsland and New South Wales. Essentially, we will see very high temperatures once again in the low 40s, maybe even reaching the mid 40s over the fire sites of East Gippsland and southeast New South Wales. Winds will strengthen ahead of that cold front and another squally change is expected to move through those fire sites during the afternoon in East Gippsland and the evening across the New South Wales coast. We are also expecting to see further elevated and potentially dry thunderstorms over those fire sites, which can lead to new fire starts via the dry lightning, but also gusty and erratic winds and very rapid at short notice wind shifts at the fire grounds.
And so those winds are key. How will the wind direction change on Saturday for those fire affected communities?
Yeah, so we'll expect to see moderate to fresh north to northwesterly winds ahead of the wind change, and then that wind change will direct quite a vigorous west to southwesterly wind over the East Gippsland fire districts, or fire sites rather, and then as what we call a southerly buster moving up the New South Wales coast, southerly to southeasterly winds, again fresh to even strong winds following that change during the evening.
Up to 100 k's an hour, because we saw 100 k's an hour in some spots yesterday.
At this stage, we're expecting to see wind gusts of 60 to 80 kilometres per hour, but I can't rule out wind gusts stronger, maybe nudging 90 kilometres per hour.
Dean Scarbossa, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
And before we go, the ABC's New Year's Eve bushfire appeal has helped raise almost $2 million for devastated communities like those you've seen tonight. The Red Cross is still taking donations, so if you'd like to contribute, you go to redcross.org.au/NYE. You can call 1800 733 276 or head to your local post office. That's the program for tonight. The Edinburgh Military Tattoo is up next. 7:30 will return on Monday night. Until next time, good night.